Nicodemus here. On this week's episode, I wanted to discuss my son's grandmother was very anxious over the fact that he had misplaced this little like red bracelet with a little star thing on it. And I know that she's thinking about like the evil eye, people maybe putting bad thoughts on him or being envious of him or some sort of taking his energy. So I guess I wanted to ask you what the course's perspective on that is.
Yeah, well, that band, that red band you're talking about, is in Kabbalah, and it's the Star of David. It's a Kabbalah, though, which is it prevents the evil eye, as you're saying. And there's different things in a lot of different cultures. The Italian culture and this culture, Brazilian, or all the different. Like maybe some Santeria, black magic, all the spells and all of that. And it's pretty ingrained throughout the world, it seems like. So there's a conversation of like when things are going well, then there's jealousy or the evil eye, like other people are looking at you enviously, and then that somehow impacts you. Now it's interesting. I remember many years ago, even my own experience with that. We had read some stuff on Kabbalah at the time, and myself and a family member, like I remember somebody's like, "Oh, you should wear this red string, and it keeps out the evil eye." And at the time, I believed in that stuff too. This was probably maybe even before. It was still probably before studying A Course in Miracles. And you're talking going back a long time. And I remember reading this stuff, and it's like, well, okay, so I want to protect against other people, and let's say an envious eye or an evil eye or people that wish us bad, which in this case, your son's grandmother was like, what the Course would say is, I think that's magic. We've talked a little bit about magic. It's magic. Like the idea that there's some force out there that could put a spell on you is itself magic, right? Because what is magic but a spell? If you think about it, I mean, let's think about just magic. I like magic, right? Love watching magicians like David Blaine and some of these people. They do stuff. I'm like, how? I saw one where the magician shows how they do the trick, and there was one where they make like an elephant disappear, and they don't actually make the elephant disappear. So think about this: the people who are watching it know it's not real. But then what do? The magician plays the part in such a way that makes the illusion seem real. So magic is like the idea that there's almost like two forces, that there's an idea that there's a force out there or outside of me that could either have power over me or that I can manipulate to yield power, right? Well, then you start to realize, well, I'm only affected by my thoughts. And actually, there really is no power. So even somebody now let's go back for a moment. That doesn't mean I want people to be envious, though, right? Or I want to generate that in people. Actually, that's not an experience. When you get down to our heart of hearts, I think, for me personally, the experiences that I'm truly after are experiences of connection. I'm not looking to make myself more special in someone else's eyes, which is right. A lot of like that is, people. I mean, I obviously work with people who make a lot of money and things like that. For most people, it's like a lot of it is a mask to the world that I want to show you how successful I am. Well, of course, that brings up envy in other people, right? Because what you're doing is you're trying to make yourself more special. The moment you do that, you now you allow yourself to be susceptible to all that envy and all that stuff because you already engaged in that game. But the moment you just decide, I don't want to play that game at all, there is no longer any like, I don't think of that evil eye or people's envy or all that. First off, I don't want to generate envy in someone. I'm not interested in that at all. That doesn't mean people might not be envious, and I understand people have their stuff. come up. But it's like competition, and somebody who I've grown up around competition as an athlete and all this stuff. The ego lives by comparison. So now I have to protect against the envy or the negativity of other people. But what is there even to protect if I have no image of myself that I'm trying to prop up? Like, think about that. What is there to protect if I care nothing at all for specialness? What's there to protect? Like, it's like, if I only wish you well in the world well, like, what is there to protect at all? So now that evil eye and all that stuff gets just thrown out. Because think about this, and this is the dichotomy. And let's say Kabbalah is almost a mystical part of Judaism, but let's say in Christianity and even in Islam, and some of, like, whether all these different mystical parts of the religions, if you will. It's like we can only go so far with these conversations because of the dogma of them, but you can't have God be everything and then have evil. Like, it doesn't add up. It doesn't work, because there can't be God being everything and all that there is, plus like another power, another will. And very subtly, what we're doing is we're saying that there's another power other than God, which is why A Course in Miracles starts with nothing real can be threatened. If it's reality or real, it can't be threatened by anything. There's nothing that can threaten reality. Illusions can't threaten reality because illusions, by their very definition, are not real. So that means that there's no war between illusions and truth. Only one of them's real. How can what is everything and true have a war or combat of something that is not and is an illusion? So this idea that there's like an evil eye or evil out there. Now, let's bring it to the Course. It's all the ego. Does everybody have the ego voice in their mind? Absolutely. Do people engage with it? Absolutely. Do people look at you and me and be in their ego mind? Absolutely. But that has no effect on me at all. At all. It only has effect on me if I'm in my ego mind, which is why I can only be affected by my thoughts. Once you understand that, you start to realize, and one of the things Jesus was telling to Helen is, like, you're truly invulnerable at your core. Like, there's no vulnerability at all. Now, does that mean that you should, that you should, like, if you think about it, that you should, that there's not, let's say, egoic forces that appear as darkness in the world and people that have not good intentions, all that stuff? Absolutely. So we could still have boundaries. We could still be really, what the Course says, we could be protective of the truth of who we are. And if people are spewing hatred or evil eye or any of that, like, it calls for forgiveness. That doesn't mean I'm going to hang out with them all the time and I'm going to surround myself with those types of people. In the world of form, how you navigate all that, I don't know. How that'll be for each person individual. But when it comes to the mind, you start to realize at our very core we're invulnerable, and that I don't need something on my wrist to protect me from imaginary forces of evil that doesn't exist, to protect the body and to protect specialness, when I could simply see the world as an opportunity to heal and to bless. I'm not worried about anyone's ego eye. There we go. It's perfect. Well, it's not the evil eye. Let's call it the ego eye. But what is, if somebody's in their ego, concern me at all? I mean, I have compassion for them and send them love. But like the Course says, the sole responsibility of the miracle worker is to accept, let's say in this conversation, like the miracle, the awakening for themselves. Whether somebody else wants to throw the ego eye or the, quote, evil eye, that'll be up to them. And I wish them only love and the best, because that would just only be hell for them. And why would they do that if they realized they were doing that? But for me, it doesn't affect me except by my own thoughts or own interpretation if I'm in my own ego mind.